and they will by no means escape. 1th 2, 3 labor pains come suddenly, the exact day and hour not being foreknown. The pains first are about 15 to 20 minutes apart, becoming closer together as labor advances. In most cases the time of labor is relatively short, especially in its second stage, but once labor pains begin, the woman knows that a birth is approaching and that the ordeal must be undergone. There is no escape. In the Apostle John's vision in Revelation he saw a heavenly woman crying out in her pains and in her agony to give birth. The child born was a son, a male, who is to shepherd all the nations with an iron rod. In spite of the dragon's efforts to devour it, her child was caught away to God and to his throne. Read 12. 1, 2, 4-6 The sons being caught away by God would denote God's acceptance of the child as his own, even as it was customary in ancient times to present a newborn child before its father for o textoi acute miracle longo. Lachish 188 With the coming of Jehovah's day. Now as for the times and the seasons, brothers, you need nothing to be written to you. You, brothers, you are not in darkness, so that that day should overtake you as it would thieves. 1th 1, 4. Lachish, a Judean city in the Shephelah. Jos 15. 21, 33, 39 Lachish is identified with Tel Egdawir Tel Lachish, a mount surrounded by valleys, and lying some 24 kilometers 15 MW of Hebron. Anciently this site occupied a strategic position on the principal road linking Jerusalem with Egypt. At one time the city covered an area of about 8 hectares, 20 acres and perhaps had a population numbering between 6,000 and 7,500 persons. At the time of Israel's conquest of Canaan, Jephthah the king of Lachish joined 4 other kings in a military offensive against Gibeon, a city that had made peace with Joshua. Jos 10. 1-5 In response to Gibeon's appeal for aid, the Israelite army staged an all-night march from Gilgal. With Jehovah's help, they defeated the Canaanite alliance, trapped the kings themselves in a cave, and thereafter executed them. Jos 10. 6-27. 12. 11 Later, the city of Lachish was taken in less than 2 days of fighting, and its inhabitants were slain. Also, Horam the king of Gezer, who came to the aid of Lachish, suffered defeat. Jos 10. 31-35. Some archaeologists link Israel's campaign against Lachish with a thick layer of ash uncovered at Tel Egdawir, in which, among other things, a scarab of Ramses was found. But the Bible does not state that the city was burned, as it does in the case of Jericho. Jos 6. 24, 25, Jos 8. 28, and Hazor. Jos 11. 11. Rather, Joshua 11. 13 seems to indicate that the Israelites rarely burned a city standing on their own mounds. So there is no scriptural basis for placing the destruction causing the ash layer in the time of Joshua and then dating the Israelite conquest of Canaan accordingly. It is also noteworthy that the Ramses to whom the scarab should be assigned cannot be definitely ascertained. At least one archaeologist attributed the scarab to Ramses III and advanced the thought that Lachish was destroyed by the Philistines in the 12th century BCE during Hoboam's reign 997-981 BCE. Lachish was strengthened militarily. 2ch 11. 5-12 Later, in about 830 BCE King Amaziah fled to Lachish to escape conspirators, but was pursued and put to death there. 2ch 14. 19. 2ch 25. 27. Besieged by Sennacherib. Lachish was besieged by Assyrian king Sennacherib in 732 BCE. From there he sent Rabshakeh, Tartan, and Rabsaris with a heavy military force to Jerusalem in an effort to move King Hezekiah to surrender. Through his chief spokesman Rabshakeh, Sennacherib defied Jehovah and later sent messengers to Jerusalem with letters of continued taunt and threat designed to bring about Hezekiah's surrender. This defiance of Jehovah God finally led to the annihilation by God's angel of 185,000 Assyrian warriors in one night. 2ch 18. 14, 17-35. 19. 8-13, 32-35. Issa 36. 1-20. 37. 8-13, 33-36. A portrayal of the siege of Lachish, from Sennacherib's palace at Nineveh, indicates that the city was encompassed by a double wall having towers at regular intervals and that palms, grapes, and figs flourished in the surrounding hilly area. The scene showing Sennacherib receiving the spoils of Lachish is accompanied by the following inscription. Sennacherib, king of the world, king of Assyria, sat upon an imdu throne and passed in review the booty taken from Lachish like Hisu. Ancient Near Eastern Texts, edited by J. B. Pritchard, 1974, p. 288. Captured by Babylonians. When the Babylonians under Nebuchadnezzar overran Judah 609-607 BCE, Lachish and Azekah were the last two fortified cities to fall before Jerusalem was taken. J. 34. 6, 7 what are known as the Lachish letters written on pottery fragments, 18 of which were found at Tel Ed-Dawir in 1935 and 3 more in 1938 appear to Otextoi Acute Muritra Longo. Lake of Fire 189 Idolatry introduced in Jerusalem originated at Lachish. Or, the sin possibly involved Judah's reliance on horses and chariots, which may have been received at Lachish from Egypt. Ladan Ladan. 1. An Ephraimite ancestor of Joshua. 1 ch. 7. 22, 26, 27. 2. A Gershonite Levite from whom several paternal houses originated. 1 ch. 23. 7-9. 26. 21 He evidently was also called Libni. X6. 17. Ladder. The only biblical reference to a ladder is at Genesis 28. 12, where the Hebrew term sul lam applies to a ladder Jacob beheld in a dream. The patriarch saw a ladder, or perhaps what looked like a rising flight of stones stationed upon the earth, with its top reaching up to the heavens. God's angels were ascending and descending on the ladder, and the representation of Jehovah God was above it. GE 28. 13th This ladder with the angels upon it indicates the existence of communication between earth and heaven, and that angels minister in an important way between God and those having his approval. When Jesus said to his disciples, "Most truly I say to you men, you will see heaven opened up and the angels of God ascending and descending to the Son of Man," he may have had in mind Jacob's vision. Job 1. 51. Scaling ladders were part of siege equipment used during warfare and are frequently depicted on Egyptian and Assyrian monuments. A relief from Nineveh shows the Assyrians employing siege ladders when assaulting Lachish. Ladders served other purposes in ancient times, as in the building trades. For instance, they are shown on the Ornamu stele depicting the construction of a ziggurat. Also, in an Assyrian relief from Tel Halaf, considered to be of the 9th century BCE, a man is shown climbing a date palm tree by means of a ladder. Lady. Sea Queen. Lael belonging to God. Elvitan, the father of Eliasaph, the chieftain of the paternal house for the Gershonites during Israel's trek in the wilderness. U 3. 24. Lahad. The descendant of Judah and the second named of Jatath's two sons. 1 ch. 4. 1, 2. Lamam. A Judean city in the Shephelah. Jos 15. 20, 33, 40 It is usually identified with Kabad el-Lam Horvat Lihem, about 5 kilometers 3 mi of Lachish. Lami my bread. The brother of Goliath the Gittite. The account at 1 Chronicles 20. 5 reads, in part, Elhanan the son of Jeg got to strike down Lami the brother of Goliath the Gittite, during the war with the Philistines. However, in a parallel text at 2 Samuel 21. 19 the reading is, Elhanan the son of Yair the Bethlehemite got to strike down Goliath the Gittite. In the latter text it appears that eth-me in English, Lami, the Hebrew term eth merely denoting that Lami is the object of a verb was misread by a copyist to be Beit-hal me Bethlehemite. Therefore the original probably read, got to strike down Lami, just as the parallel text at 1 Chronicles 20. 5 reads. This would make the two texts harmonize on this point. Lami, then, was evidently the brother of the Goliath that David killed. On the other hand, it is possible that there were two Goliaths. See Goliath. Lion. 1. A man from Galim, the father of Paul to Paltiel, to whom Saul gave as a wife his daughter Michal, previously the wife of David. 1 Sah 25. 44. 2 Sah 3. 15. 2. A northern Canaanite city destroyed by the Danites, who thereafter rebuilt it and gave it the name of Dan JG 18. 27-29. Also called Leshem. Jos 19. 47. See Dan No. 3. Lays Halai Middle Shalayan. A town in the territory of Benjamin identified by F-Enable Geography de la Palestine, Paris, 1938, Volume 2, p. 368 with Isawiya, about 2.5 kilometers 1.5 mi of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Isaiah's prophetic foreview of the rampaging Assyrian, as he advances village by village, calls on Lezer to pay attention to the coming attack. Issa 10. 30. Lake of Fire. This expression occurs only o textually acute miritra longo. Lakem 190 has inherited from Adam Row 5. 12, nor does it refer to Hades Sheol. It must, therefore, be symbolic of another kind of death, one that is without reversal, for the record nowhere speaks of the lake as giving up those in it, as do Adamic death and Hades Sheol. Re 20. 13 Thus, those not found written in the book of life, unrepentant opposers of God's sovereignty, are hurled into the lake of fire, meaning eternal destruction, or the second death. Re 20. 15. While the foregoing texts make evident the symbolic quality of the lake of fire, it has been used by some persons to support belief in a literal place of fire and torment. Revelation 20. 10 has been appealed to, because it speaks of the devil, the wild beast, and the false prophet as being tormented day and night forever and ever in the lake of fire. However, this cannot refer to actual conscious torment. Those thrown into the lake of fire undergo the second death. Re 20. 14 In death there is no consciousness and, hence, no feeling of pain or suffering. EC 9. 5. In the scriptures fiery torment is associated with destruction and death. For example, in the Greek Septuagint translation of the Hebrew scriptures the word for torment basa middle dot numbers is several times used with reference to punishment by death. S 3. 20. 32. 24, 30 Similarly, concerning Babylon the Great, the book of Revelation says, the kings of the earth will weep and beat themselves in grief over her, when they look at the smoke from the burning of her, while they stand at a distance, because of their fear of her torment. Gr. Ba middle dot sa middle dot ni middle dot smau. Re 18. 9, 10 As to the meaning of the torment, an angel later explains. Thus with a swift pitch will Babylon the great city be hurled down, and she will never be found again. Re 18. 21 So, fiery torment here is parallel with destruction, and in the case of Babylon the Great, it is everlasting destruction. Compare E 17. 16. 18. 8, 15-17, 19. Therefore, those who are tormented forever from Gr. Ba middle dot sa middle dot nizo in the lake of fire undergo second death from which there is no resurrection. The related Greek word Ba middle dot sa middle dot ni middle dot stes is translated jailer in Matthew 18. 34. Rs. Nw. ed. Compare verses 30. Thus those hurled into the lake of fire will be held under restraint, or jailed, in death throughout eternity. See Gehenna. Torment. Lakum Lakum. A boundary site of Naphtali. Jos 19. 32, 33 It is possibly but Cush Shihorvat Cush, by the Jordan River just east of the Sea of Galilee. Lamb. Sea sheep. Lame, lameness. A physical handicap that prevents a person from walking normally. Lameness may date from birth, because of congenital deformities. Act 3. 2. 14. 8, but most cases are caused by accidents or diseases. Aaronic priesthood. A lame person who was a descendant of Aaron could not serve in the priesthood, although he was allowed to eat from the things provided for the priesthood for their sustenance. La 21. 16-23 Jehovah set a high standard of physical fitness for his priesthood, for these represented him at his sanctuary. So, too, Christ, the great high priest, was loyal, guileless, undefiled, separated from the sinners. Job 7:26. Sacrifices. It was also forbidden, under the law, to offer as a sacrifice any animal with a defect of lameness, because these foreshadowed the perfect sacrifice of Christ. The 15. 21. The 22. 19, 20. This law was violated by the apostate Israelites, for which God reproved them, saying, when you present a lame animal for sacrificing, you say, it is nothing bad. Bring it near, please, to your governor. Will he find pleasure in you, or will he receive you kindly? Can I take pleasure in it at your hand? Al 1. 8:13. The apostle evidently applies this requirement in a spiritual way to Christians, entreating them. Present your bodies as sacrifice living, holy, acceptable to God, a sacred service with your power of reason. Row 12. 1. Jacob's O textoi acute miritra longo, lame, lameness 191. You will not come in here, but the blind and the lame ones will certainly turn you away, they thinking. David will not come in here. They may have actually placed such persons on the wall as defenders, as is stated by Josephus Jewish Antiquities, 7:61-3:1, and this may be the reason why David said, anyone striking the Jebusites, let him, by means of the water tunnel, make contact with both the lame and the blind, hateful to the soul of David. These lame and blind ones were the symbol of the Jebusites' insult to David and, more seriously, their taunt against the armies of Jehovah. David hated the Jebusites, along with their lame and blind, for such arrogance. He may actually have been calling the Jebusite leaders themselves the lame and blind, in derision. 2 Sir 5. 6-8. As to the statement in verse 8, that is why they say, the blind one and the lame one will not come into the house, several explanations have been offered. In the text this statement is not attributed to David and may mean that others developed this proverbial saying with regard to those who, like the Jebusites, boasted or were overconfident of their secure position. Or, the saying might have meant, no one who holds intercourse with disagreeable people like the Jebusites will enter. Others would render the text, because the blind and the lame continued to say, he shall not come into this house, or, because they had said, even the blind and the lame, he shall not come into the house. Barrett's Synopsis of Criticisms, London, 1847, Volume 2, Part 2, p. 518. KJ margin. On a later occasion, Elijah asked the Israelites, how long will you be limping upon two different opinions? If Jehovah is the true God, go following him. But if Baal is, go following him. At that time the Israelites were claiming to worship Jehovah, but at the same time were worshipping Baal. Their course was unsteady and halting, like that of a lame man. During the contest that ensued, when the prophets of Baal were vainly trying from morning till noon to get their God to answer them, they kept limping around the altar that they had made. This may be a mocking description of the ritualistic dance or hobble of the fanatical Baal worshippers, or it may be that they limp because of their tiredness from the long, futile ritual. 1 Kai 18. 21-29. Limping, lameness, and stumbling are used in figures of speech to denote halting irregularity or unsteadiness in one's course of life, purpose, or speech. Bildad, supposedly warning Job of dangers ahead for him, said of a person taking a wicked course, disaster stands ready to make him limp. Job 18. 12. In a similar figure David and Jeremiah spoke of their enemies as waiting for them to make an unsteady step, watching for them to limp, so that, as Jeremiah's foes said, we may prevail against him and take our revenge upon him. Job 20. 10. PS 38. 16, 17. The enemies of Jesus Christ wanted to see him stumble, or limp, in his speech so as to entrap him. Mount 22. 15. Proverbial usage. As one that is mutilating his feet which would make him lame, as one that is drinking mere violence, is he that is thrusting matters into the hand of someone stupid, said wise King Solomon. Truly, the man employing a stupid person to handle any project for him is doing crippling violence to his own interests. He is certain to see his proposed work collapse, with damage to himself. PR 26. 6. The Proverbs continue with a like illustration. Have the legs of the lame one drawn up water? Then there is a proverb in the mouth of stupid people. PR 26. 7. In ancient times, especially in cities built upon mounds, it was often necessary to climb down a ladder or a long stairway to bring water up from the well. A stupid person trying to speak or apply a proverb is as clumsy and ineffective as a lame man trying to carry water up a stairway. God's ancient nation. In speaking of the restoration o textoi acute miritra longo, Lamech 192 spiritually immature ones, who should be making better progress. Heb 5. 12-14 Then, after speaking of discipline, he said, keep making straight paths for your feet, that what is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather that it may be healed. Heb 12. 13 Even stronger ones should carefully watch how they walk in their Christian course, so that the weaker, spiritually lame ones would not stumble or injure themselves. If those stronger in faith used their spiritual freedom to do certain things that were lawful, those weaker in faith might be stumbled by their actions. Row 15. 1. The Apostle Paul sets forth as an example of this principle the matter of eating and drinking. Row 14. 13-18, 21 In this passage he counsels, in part. Make this your decision, not to put before a brother a stumbling block or a cause for tripping. He says, it is well not to eat flesh or to drink wine or do anything over which your brother stumbles. Compare 1 Co 8. 7-13. On the other hand, the Apostle shows, a Christian should strengthen his own spiritual legs so that he will not limp or be stumbled by what occurs or by what someone else does. He should make himself strong so as to keep steady in the Christian course. Paul says, let the one eating not look down on the one not eating, and let the one not eating not judge the one eating, for God has welcomed that one. Row 14. 3 This principle was expressed by the psalmist. Abundant peace belongs to those loving your law, and for them there is no stumbling block. PS 119. 165 Those loving God's law will not be caused to limp with spiritual lameness over any matter. Complete healing. Lameness has caused many tears. Just as Jesus Christ healed many lame and maimed persons when he was on earth, even restoring dried up body parts. Mr. 3. 1, 5. Compare Luke 22. 50, 51, by means of a new heaven God's Son will again perform similar cures. This he will accomplish completely as high priest and king appointed by God, wiping out every tear from the eyes of humankind. Mount 8. 16, 17. Re 21. 1, 4. Lamech. 1. The son of Methuselah and a descendant of Cain. Ge 4. 17, 18 His lifetime and Adam's overlapped. Lamech had 2 wives, Ada and Zillah, at the same time and was the first polygamist of Bible record. Ge 4. 19 By Ada he had sons named Jubal, the founder of those who dwell in tents and have livestock, and Jubal, the founder of all those who handled the harp and the pipe. Ge 4. 20, 21 By Zillah, Lamech became the father of Tubal-Cain, the forger of every sort of tool of copper and iron, and a daughter named Naamah. Ge 4. 22. The poem that Lamech composed for his wives. Ge 4. 23, 24 reflects the violence